2013. Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter at OneWrestling.com. Early this morning, I received a very disturbing phone call from a veteran wrestler that I keep in touch with a few times a year. The Continental Lover, he used to be called, Eddie Mansfield. Yeah, the controversial Eddie Mansfield. He told me, Bill, I hate to inform you this, but you know, Buck Robley's been very sick, and he died this morning. Horrible news, absolutely horrible news. Buck Robley was a one-of-a-kind man. He was one of the most creative people ever in wrestling. He's the guy that invented wrestling t-shirt advertising of the wrestlers on T-shirts. He was the first one to bring that forward. He created characters when he worked for Bill Watts, like Junkyard Dog and so many other great characters, and he helped people like Ted DiBiase and others expand what they were good at and make them into full-blown characters. He fine-tuned so many hundreds and hundreds of wrestlers throughout his life. First of all, thank you, Eddie Mansfield, for calling me and letting me know that Buck had passed away. Last time I saw Buck was 2011 in Atlanta at the Greg Price's wrestling convention, and had a nice chat with him. And a year before that, I was in St. Louis at the Wrestling Legends on Tour, and I had a chance to do an old school interview with Buck Robley. So I want to play you that interview from 2010, and then we're going to go and talk with Eddie Mansfield, who was very close friends with Buck Robley, and talk about the Buck Robley he knew. And then from there, we're going to talk about Donnie Sanders. Donnie Sanders is a journeyman wrestler who spent the last few months of his life sacrificing everything to take care of his dear friend, Buck Robley, and he was with him when he died. So we will speak with him as well. Right now, St. Louis, Missouri, 2010, here I am with the Colonel, Buck Robley, and he's going to tell you more about himself than I could. Hello, everyone, from OneWrestling.com and Wrestling Legends on Tour. I'm Bill Apter, and I'm talking with the good Colonel, Buck Robley. Welcome.
Well, Bill, let's make the proper announcement. Colonel Buckley Christopher George Robley III.
I had no idea.
Everybody knows that name. Anybody that's followed wrestling from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s knows who Colonel Buck Robley is. He's the guy that changed the revolution of wrestling that you see today.
How did he do that?
He's the man that booked the best talent against the best talent, Mr. Apter. You happen to be around some of my events. You never knew what was going to come from the Colonel. And the people out there don't know what's going to come from the Colonel. But I booked the best talent against the best talent. When they said, Buck, you can't do anything like that, I had the smarts. I was the first to ever wear a T-shirt in the business. I started the music videos. I used the music for introductions. There's a lot of things that I've changed that you see today still continuing. And my legacy is still out there, Bill Apter.
So if you could put your finger on the highlight of your career in the ring, what would that be?
There's just too many to mention, Bill. Really, I think every time that I went in that ring, no matter how I felt, who I was wrestling, I entertained the families, the children, the adults, anybody that could see wrestling knew what they were getting when I crawled in that ring. They got more than 100% of what Buck Robley could give in his time and era. I made sure those people were happy, and I continue to do that today for you, too.
Who was the toughest opponent?
Probably my partner, Bruiser Brody. I had a few matches with Bruiser Brody, and he was everything that you ever heard about when Big Bruiser Brody hit that ring. I've got scars in the back of my head. I can recall them chairs hitting my head, busting me open, the shoulder blades, my back. The Bruiser was probably the toughest. And I mean, in my era, I went through everybody. Flair, Rose, Harley Race, the Funks. Sweet Tans, DiBiase's, Tommy Rich's, the Ordens, Bill, it's just too many.
Well, let's go. I'm doing this with all the wrestlers here at Wrestling Legends on Tour. Let's go back into the past right now. Tonight, you've got a big match against Dory Funk Jr. for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He's the champion. How, Buck Robley, are you going to go out tonight and take that belt from him?
So I have to first prepare myself mentally. Very important. Mentally. You have to get yourself prepared mentally. Once you get yourself to that part, Bill, it's real simple. You know that the Funks were good for the spinning toe hold?
Yes, sir.
I was nationally known for the sleeper. I put a lot of people to sleep.
So you're going to put
So
Dory
what
Funk
I'm
to
going to
sleep?
do with Dory Funk, I'm going to avoid that spinning toe hold, and I'm going to end up hooking that sleeper. And let me tell you, once I lock that in, it doesn't take the colonel long to see your senior or junior or Dory or Terry just kind of melt down. The referee checks that arm. It's down. It's down. You got it, folks. A new world heavyweight champion. That's how I'm going to approach that tonight, Mr. Apter.
You got to see it tonight. The Colonel, Buck Robley, against Dory Funk Jr. for the NWA title. Be there. Right now with me face to face, Eddie Mansfield. Yeah, boy, nobody's heard from you in a while. Welcome to Face here on OneWrestling.com.
Well, it's an honor to be with you, Willie Apter. We've been down the road of many, many miles, and I just wish that it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, the circumstances, as you know, this morning, early morning, I received a phone call from Eddie Mansfield. We stay in touch several times a year, and he said to me, "Bill, Buck Robley died," and what a sad day it was. Eddie, tell us about your relationship with Buck Robley. When did you first meet him?
Well, I first met Buck in the late '70s in Kansas City when I first started in the business, and it was probably my second territory, and he was booking, and then later on, we became really close friends through the years, and in San Antonio when he replaced Wahoo McDaniel as the booker, and Buck and myself traveled the roads and the plane rides together. And let me tell you, Buck Robley is a genius when it comes to the professional wrestling. And today we lost a legend, and it seems like we're losing a lot of legends, Bill. And a lot of greatness is going out of the professional wrestling business, and it's really a sad day for our business.
Yeah, it is. Tell us what did you feel was the genius of Buck Robley? What was, if you could point to one thing that he did, or a program that he created, or a wrestler creation, what was that?
Well, gosh, man, I mean, you go from Kamala to Bruiser Brody to you just name and on and on and on. Yeah. But I mean, as far as angles and stuff, they're just unlimited. There's just too many to look at. I mean, you look at Ricky Morton, you look at Bruiser Brody, you look at Eddie Mansfield, you look at other guys that came out of my era.
Junkyard Dog.
Oh, JYD is really big. And I forgot about JYD, and we lost him a few years ago as well. And when you look at Buck Robley, you look at his numbers, and it's called a wrestling business, and everybody forgets about that. It is a business.
Yeah.
But everywhere that Buck Robley went, it got better. It was down when he went in, and it was up when he left.
Yeah.
So I looked at as a business guy, he was one of the best there is in the business.
Tell us about the last time you spoke with him.
Well, I spoke to him about probably a month ago, and he was starting to decline. It was right after his wife passed away. It's when he really started declining.
Yeah.
And I spoke to him the last time about a month ago, and it's just sad because he wasn't the same Buck. He had lost that he hadn't lost that fire and that in your face kind of attitude,
but tough edge on
the edge was starting to lighten, and I could sense that he wasn't feeling very well, and and I didn't press him on any issues. I just wanted to listen to him and tell me about how he felt, and his back was really bothering him. And Buck is the Buck I knew had a heart of gold,
Yeah.
and the Buck, he would give the shirt off his back to you. And so many people know Buck as a booker and saying, you need to get this done, get that done. He was a grinder, but
Yeah.
but I knew the other side of Buck Robley, that really, once you get past that tough exterior, he was gentle and he was kind,
I
and he
knew
would do
him too
anything
that way.
in the world. And you know that
Yeah.
about him,
Yep.
Bill, as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Went on many trips to Japan with he and Jimmy Snuka and Bruiser
Huh.
Brody, and I learned so much from Buck Robley about the wrestling business just by sitting down and talking to the talents in the dressing room and telling them how to fine tune their characterizations.
Yeah, and Buck Robley was, when I say a genius, he was a genius, and I don't use that word very very often, and you know that, Bill. I'm kind of, I measure some words, but some words I don't measure. But when it comes to accolades like that for Buck Robley, I can't say enough. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
when you look at Buck Robley, you look at Bill Watts, and then when you put a Bill Watts and a Buck Robley together, that's nothing but money,
Oh,
man.
of course, money and magic.
Exactly, and
Money and
and and
magic.
that's what Buck Robley brought to the table.
Yeah,
He had brain,
they were on the same wavelength in terms of creativity.
always,
Yeah, yeah.
always.
You
And this
have to be.
that's what our business is lacking today. More Buck Robleys. Our business has become stagnant, and it's nothing new. I mean, you can't just rely on a writer. I mean, you're one of the greatest writers in the world, but
Thank you. I
you
appreciate that.
you you can't only just write all the time. You gotta not only, you have to know the characters you're writing about,
Exactly,
and
exactly. And
and you
they
will.
knew them inside out.
Absolutely, and they could create them that people believed in, and that's what sold professional wrestling. It
Yeah,
was guys like you, guys like Buck Robley, and other people who really understand that this is professional wrestling and it is a business,
right,
and
right.
and it's about characters that are bigger than life, but it also is the bottom line. And Buck Robley knew what the bottom line was, whether it was in Atlanta, Georgia, San Antonio, Texas, or Louisiana, wherever Buck Robley has gone. And Kansas City, he took Kansas City from a dumper
Yeah,
to drawing
yeah.
money, man.
I remember.
And that's a miracle, Bill.
So long before Stone Cold Steve Austin coined the phrase, that's the bottom line, it was Buck Robley. One more thing that I want to discuss real quickly,
Okay.
and this will be our next segment, is you told me about this terrific independent wrestler. For years, he was a journeyman wrestler and a dear friend of yours by the name of Donnie Sanders, correct?
Right. Yeah. Donnie was one of Buck's boys.
And in the last few months, he has stopped everything that he was doing,
Mm.
moved down to where Buck Robley was living,
Little Rock,
and
Arkansas.
took care of him.
Absolutely.
And we are going to get on the line right now with Donnie Johnson. And thank you so much, Eddie Mansfield, for being part of this. And we'll catch up with you on a separate face-to-face one day, because I'm sure people want to know whatever happened to Eddie Mansfield.
Eddie Mansfield's live and well, and you know something, I want to personally thank Donnie Sanders, that whoever, when you have him on your show, and thank him for taking the time out of his life to take care of one of our greatest treasures in professional wrestling, and that's Buck Robley.
Thank you. All right. Eddie
Thank you
Mansfield
for.
here with Bill Apter on. On the line with us right now is Don Sanders. Don, we just talked to Eddie Mansfield. It's been a sad day all around. Tell us about Buck Robley, your friend Buck Robley.
Well, first of all, Bill, after it is a pleasure to be here with you. You're certainly an icon of professional wrestling.
Thank you, sir.
Buck Robley was, just in a nutshell, a one of a kind. Buck Robley, my friend, was just absolutely one of the most creative artistic minds ever in the history of professional wrestling, in modern history. and he was also just such a good guy, and to sum all of that up, he was really a man's man. He stood by his word. He stood by his friends. He took up for them. He was just a guy that you wanted to be friends with, and that's it. If you were near him or you met him, you wanted to be friends with him. That's my friend.
How many years were you friends with Buck?
Oh, Buck and I first started, he booked me down in Puerto Rico probably around 1992. So whatever the math is, about 21 years we've had a relationship and a friendship. We've kept, going, and something about us, there's people that you're around that you're friends with and you're acquaintances with and, you're cordial with. We just somehow or another bonded, and our friendship just stayed bonded for this whole time, Buck liked me, and I looked at him like a father figure and a mentor and a friend and somebody to give me advice. He just one of those people that come in your life that you can always turn to and say, "Hey, I'm having this problem right here in my life. What should I do?" And he would offer his opinion, and he wouldn't force it on you. He'd say, "Here's what I think I would do. Now do what you think is right."
Did you live geographically close to him?
Not always. Now, sometimes we did. Now, when we were in Puerto Rico, of course, if you know anything about their promotion down there, it would be, 2 or 3 guys per room down there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
no, I meant in recent years.
In recent years, not really, but we still kept in touch. Or, he would run shows. He would promote in different places. He'd call me and say, "Hey, Donnie, you want to come make, a payday? And you want to come over here and do this? Sure, Buck." And tell me what the money was, and he'd say, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you." Okay, but sometimes I'd go for it, and I didn't even know what the money was going to be. He just said, "Can I take care of you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, just come on." So I would go, and then from there, he kind of got out of it, and I kind of moved out of the wrestling world and on into other areas of my life. But we still stayed in contact. He called me, and he knew my mom and dad, and he was just the kind of person, if he went too long without hearing from you, he wanted to know what was going on and where you'd been and how you were doing, So that was our relationship.
So when you heard that he was deathly ill and he had lost his wife not a long time ago, tell us what you did. This is an amazing story. Tell everybody what you did from when you heard that.
Well, I don't really want to throw amazing around because it was just what I said earlier. We just bonded as friends, and I had a friend that called me in need. He was a wrestling brother, and he was a friend outside the ring. He called me and said, "Donnie, here's what's been going on with me, and I don't want anybody else but you to come because it's just I don't feel comfortable. There were some things going on with him personally, as far as just his physical condition." He said, "I don't want anybody else to be around." He said, "Well, I need you." So I said, "Buck, it's December 19th. It's right here at Christmas." He said, "I know it is. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't need you." I said, "Send the plane ticket and I'll be there tomorrow." So that's how quick that happened. I don't know that I want to put the word amazing in there. All I did was what any person would do for their friend that they loved and cared about. I jumped on an airplane and I came and saw my friend. When I got here, it was not very good.
So you went there in December of 2012 and you've pretty much stayed there, haven't you?
That's correct. My friend needed me. I mean, I really don't want to go into the physical description of what was going on, but you can imagine someone who has a broken back and a crushed vertebrae and how he couldn't get around and he just needed help doing certain personal things, and he didn't want anybody else to do it but me, and I said, of course I'll do it for my friend. So I did it. I don't want any medals or recognition or anything like that. It was all about love for my brother, love for my mentor, love for my friend. I came and did it. That's the only reason.
One of the things that Eddie Mansfield mentioned to me off the air was you were with him when he passed.
Yes, that's correct. It was this morning today, and he'd already just gotten out of the hospital. He'd had some fluid built up. He's been on a lot of anti-inflammatories. Anybody in the wrestling business that knows Buck knows about his physical injuries. He had plates in his arms. He had screws and hinges on his ankles, a plate holding his tibia together, and so all those things had built up calcium over here. So they put him on a lot of anti-inflammatories, prednisone, Decadron. Those things make you retain fluid. Heavily. So what had happened over Friday, this past Friday, was that he got real short of breath and said, Buck, you got to go to the hospital. Well, he's always got a stubborn streak and said, no, I'm all right. I said, no, we're going to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. They put him in and admitted him with congestive heart failure. That fluid had moved around his heart. So by Saturday or Sunday, he was already calling me. I'd leave, and it would be 5 minutes. He was calling me, you got to get me out. I said, Buck, I can't do that. So he got out, talked to doctors, and he let him out yesterday. And I'm not sure that was, the doctor signed off on it, so he must have thought it was going to be okay. And then something woke me up about 5 this morning, and I went in there to look, and he was on the side of the bed, and he was really laboring for air, and I said, Buck, I said, we got to go to the hospital. That fluid's back. He told me, no, just give me a couple minutes. Just give me a couple minutes. I can get my breath. I said, Buck, I'm going to give it 2 minutes. If not, I've got to call the hospital. So he said, just make me some coffee and I'll be fine. And I went to make coffee, and then I came back. When I did, I saw him slumping off the bed, and I called him, and it pretty much was over there because, hold on just a minute, Bill, please.
Yeah.
The fluid had got him, and I did the mouth to mouth like they told me on the phone, and I tried everything I could, and it had already gone to his whole visceral cavity. And I held his hand, and he looked at me, and I said, Buck, please don't leave. And I think, in a sense, Billy's just been in so much pain the last 8 months that it was just, I think he kind of let go, but I kept the promise to him. And the one promise, and I am kind of proud of myself for that, but not celebrating it at all, is that he told me one time, he said, Donnie, I just didn't want to die alone. That was right after his wife had passed, so he expected, her to outlive him. And I said, Buck, I'll never let you die alone, no matter where I'm at. If you've got family, and if anything, with them, that doesn't work out, I'll be there with you. So I did keep my promise to him on that. So, excuse me. I kept my promise to him. I didn't let him die alone.
Donnie, thank you so much. And everyone should have a friend. When you talk about the word friend and the deep meaning of it, like you were more than a friend. You were, I can't even think of the right word. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. And God bless you.